Take from the one who's doing nothing with it and give it to the one who maximized it. Some might say that's cold, but nah, that's kingdom. Hello. It's so funny how when you get ready to discuss Bible, all of a sudden everybody wants you, everybody needs your attention. Anyway, let me direct your attention to a story that is very popular in scripture. It's about the man with the three men with the 3 talents. They had a boss who gave them a certain amount of talents. I think talents is a very good word to use here because it's sort of like where I am in my life, learning how to take what God has given and multiply that, right? So we had a man who's going off into a far kingdom, and let's just look at it so I don't have to misquote it, okay? Matthew 25, verse 14. I'm going to probably play around with verses 14 through 30. I'm reading from the New King James Version, and I'm going to read it straight from the Bible. It says, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, and to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability." Now let's take a moment and translate that into USD because loosely anyway, okay. 1 talent, you look at that, at least I used to look at it as being like a coin, a little crumpled coin that's not even finely polished, a little, whatever they used back in the day. But if you take that talent and weigh it out, it's a certain amount of poundage. And if you equate that poundage to gold, or what gold should be worth in today's dollar amounts, 1 talent would be equal to about, I got it right here, about $2.6 million. So the 1 talent would be equal to $2.6 million. Let's just say $2 million, okay? Keep that in your crawl. Let's go through this again. Okay, it says there was a man who was traveling and he gave one of his servants 5 talents. He gave another of his servants 2 talents and another 1. So at first I used to feel sorry for the one with the 1, right? Because I'm thinking, oh, he got one little dusty coin, and I can imagine him being afraid if he's got a hard master and he doesn't want to lose the coin, him hiding the coin away. How many times have we underestimated what we have? Because when you look at a true measurement of what he had in today's standards, you can do a little something with $2 million in 2024. Let me start a business with $2 million instead of trying to start it with what I got going on. Give me $2 million and see what I can do with that. So to one servant, he gave $2 million. To another servant, he gave double that. So let's say $4 million. And then to another servant, he gave 5 times that. So let's say $10 million. The story feels different already, right? Because when you don't have a good understanding of what a talent is, it's just preaching all over the place. But anyway, when you don't have a good understanding of what a talent is, you'll underestimate it. And I can't help but wonder why the word talents in this scripture, just like we say dollars, it's a measurement of currency. They had talents, but let's just take it a little too literally and talk about the talents that are in you, the gifts that are in you. Okay, a lot of times we underestimate what we have because we're looking at what everybody else has, instead of really weighing and balancing what we have. That 1 talent is worth so much. But you can't appreciate how much the 1 talent you have is worth because you're too busy looking at him with 2 talents and her with 5 talents, when it doesn't matter what they have. What matters is what you have right here. But let's go on with the story because it gets good. It's juicy. Let's look at verse 16. With Matthew 25, verse 16. "Then he who had 5 talents went and traded with them, and he made another 5 talents. So the one who had 5 talents came back home with 10 talents. Verse 17. "And likewise, he who had received 2 went and gained 2 more. But he who had received 1 went, dug in the ground, and hid his Lord's money." So I know, number 1, it is financial. It clearly says right here, money. Number 2, it didn't belong to him. It's his Lord's money. And I can say the same thing about your talents, your actual physical gifts and talents that you have. They, number 1, don't belong to us. And number 2, can be profitable. But anyway, I don't know where to count. I'm used to the camera being over here sometimes, and sometimes it's over here. So if I look over here, just forgive me, okay? But check it out. So the one who had 1 didn't make any profit. And I don't know why he hid it in the ground. The Bible doesn't say. Well, it says when he's, giving his excuses to the boss who came back. But for maybe he was afraid, like he said, he was going to lose it, or maybe he was afraid of the boss. Whatever the fear was, it didn't play out too well in the end. So let's look at it. Verse 18. But he who had received one went, dug in the ground, and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, so you had plenty of time to go dig it up and do something with it. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought the 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you gave me 5. Look, I've gained 5 more. The Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. So even though he started with 5. He started with 5 times more than one and 3.5 times more than somebody else. But the Lord still considered it a few things, which says to me, don't get too caught up with what you got, because based on what God's got, what you got, no matter how much it is still little. You've been faithful over a few things. So no matter how much you think it is, in God's sight, it's a few things. No matter how small you think it is, in God's sight, it's a big thing. Let's keep going. Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord. Then we go on down to verse 22. And he also who had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, you delivered unto me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents beside them. The Lord said, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. Notice in God's sight, no matter what the dollar amount was, they were all equal. Few things, few things. Few things, few things. So that's why we can stop comparing what we have with what they have, because in God's sight, it's all equal, because God knows what he can do with it. He knows what he's given you the ability to do with it. So in his sight, it's all equal. So we can stop making hers be better than mine, and mine ain't good as hers, and his is better than mine. It's all equal. It's all few things. It's all few things. Okay. Let's continue. You've been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord. Verse 24. Then he who had 1 talent came and said, Lord, now I knew you were a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, gathering where you have not scattered seed. The nerve. And I was afraid. And I went and I hid your talent in the ground. Look, you have what is yours. In other words, you gave me 1, I'm giving you 1 back. We should be good. Now, in tangi justice, I'd be like, cool, at least you didn't lose none. But this is telling me, and this is a parable, which means it's teaching us about relationship principles between us and God. Okay, it's a parable. It's teaching kingdom principles. All right. So this master was not good with giving back what you got. He was expecting increase, but don't take my word for it. Verse 25. This is still the servant talking. He says, now I was afraid, and I went and I hid your talent in the ground. Look, here you have what is yours. Verse 26 says, but the Lord said unto him, you wicked and lazy servant. You knew. Now, I'm taking your word. This is what God, he says, this is what you're saying. So if you knew that I reaped where I have not sown, and I gather where I have not scattered, you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers. And at my coming, I would have received back my own with interest. So take the talent from him. So number 1, he called him wicked and he called him lazy. Wow. So when you don't use what you have, you're considered wicked and lazy. Why? Because you're not profitable. You're not increasing. You're not getting more. Learning a new skill is considered increasing. It's profitable. Learning to play guitar, learning to play violin, learning to do hair, making that thing become something that's profitable, something that brings increase, something that brings fruitfulness, learning how to teach. We're expected to increase. We're expected to increase. I heard Myron Golden say this. He was talking about all the things we've learned just being born We've learned how to walk. We've learned how to talk. We understand an entire language. We can read and we can write. We can drive automobiles. A lot of us are dealing with our families and raising children and educating people, not to mention the career that you have. All these things that you've learned how to do. But are you done? You know, I took pottery class. And it reminded me of my trial sermon. When I first started preaching years ago, I was talking about pottery and vessels and being a vessel of honor. And I spent some time on the potter's house and how he was making a vessel and the vessel got messed up and he remade the vessel, right? And so what God showed me in that was that potter's wheel. You know, I recently took a pottery class this year, and the potter's wheel is spinning, 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 right? And so on the wheel, as long as that pot is on the wheel, I'm still, as a potter, working with it. And so I asked the question, like, are we finished? Are we done growing? Are we done increasing? We graduated from high school. Are we finished? We graduated from college. Are we finished? Or are we still on the wheel? The same way that that wheel is revolving, science says the earth revolves. Not the same speed. Don't be too literal with it, but I'm just saying the fact that we're still here, we're still on the wheel, means we're not done yet. When I would finish my pots, I would cut them off the wheel and I would put them through another process so they could be strong enough to stand on their own. But as long as they're on that wheel, they're not done. So my challenge to you is you're not done. Whatever is in your heart to do, do it. Life is too long and it's too short not to do something else. Not to do something new, not to increase, not to grow, not to stretch, not to take a calculated risk. Life is too long, life is too short. You got something else to do. And who would have thought that when you don't do that, you get put in the wicked and lazy category? Because the man, what did he do? He didn't lose anything. He wasn't wasteful. He had a great budget. He gave the master right that way. He played right within the lines. Thou wicked, lazy servant. Wicked, lazy servant. He said, you could have deposited my money with the bankers, and I would have received my own with interest, or usury, the regular King James says. He says, so take the talent from him. Now this right here really did put some gravy on my biscuits. Take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. Normally, and in my little thinking, I would have said, take from the one who has 10 and give it to the one who has 1 so everybody can be equal. But that's not a kingdom principle. Take from the one who's doing nothing with it and give it to the one who maximized it. Take from the one who's doing nothing with it and give it to the one who's maximizing it. That's deep. And some might say that's cold. But nah, that's kingdom. So what are you going to do? Are you going to continue to sit on your gifts? You have something great inside you. It's time for you to use it. And to sum it up, verse 29 says, to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. So much in this verse, and it's so many different lessons. But what's being impressed upon me is that it's time for us to use what we have. What do you have in your hands? What do you have in your house? Use it.